Between 1975 and 1990, the American Southlands experienced the terror of a vicious and abhorrent killer responsible for torturing, violating, and murdering over 50 women and girls during his 15-year killing spree. Despite such a high body count, the killer known as Robert Ben Rhodes, or the truck stop killer, remained at large due to his mobility. He constantly traveled in his 16-wheeler truck, which he had converted into a soundproofed torture chamber. Rhodes was born on November 22, 1945, in Council Bluffs, Iowa. His childhood was relatively normal, and he did not display any signs of abnormal behavior. Rhodes was active in high school and participated in sports, such as football and wrestling. He even attended the Thomas Jefferson High School French Club and was proficient in the language. Although Rhodes had a few run-ins with the law during his teenage years, they were typical of a regular angsty teen. Rhodes' life took a dark turn in 1964 when he joined the U.S. Marines. That same year, his father was arrested for inappropriately touching a 12-year-old girl. Rhodes' father committed suicide before he could be tried for his crimes. After his father's suicide, Rhodes' military conduct worsened, leading to his dishonorable discharge from the Marines in 1968 for his involvement in a violent robbery. In the years that followed, Rhodes struggled to settle into a routine lifestyle. He briefly attended college but dropped out and had his application to join the Council Bluffs police force rejected due to his dishonorable military discharge. Rhodes worked various jobs in stores, supermarkets, warehouses, and restaurants, marrying and divorcing 3 different women along the way. One of his ex-wives, Deborah, recounted how Rhodes became abusive after the romance in their relationship fizzled out, and he began pushing for sadistic and masochistic activities. Rhodes eventually found his calling in long-haul trucking, which took him far away from the pain and shame of his father's actions. He later admitted to preying on hitchhikers and truck stop escorts since the mid-1970s, but due to his mobility, authorities did not catch up to him until 1990. In January of that year, Rhodes picked up a hitchhiking couple named Patricia Walsh and Douglas Sikowski, who had been hitchhiking across Texas without incident. Rhodes appeared friendly at first, but soon after picking them up, the couple's nightmare began. It is unclear how Douglas was killed, but his body was found in Texas's Sutton County and remained unidentified for 2 years. Meanwhile, Patricia was kept alive for a week, during which police suspect Rhodes used her as a pleasure slave. She was kept bound, gagged, and repeatedly tortured in Rhodes' soundproof sleeper cab until he grew bored of her, after which he killed her and dumped her body in Millard County, Utah. When her body was found, it was barely recognizable. 1 month later, Rhodes abducted 18-year-old Shauna Holtz from the roadside, taking her to his makeshift torture chamber where he held her captive and subjected her to torture for approximately 2 weeks. However, Holtz miraculously managed to escape captivity and immediately contacted the law enforcement authorities to report her harrowing ordeal. She provided the police with a detailed description of both Rhodes and his truck, leading to his prompt arrest. However, when it came to pressing charges against Rhodes, Holtz had second thoughts. She explained to the investigating officers that she didn't believe a jury would believe her story, and even when assured that the evidence against Rhodes was overwhelming, she refused to appear in court. Despite the mountain of collated evidence, she still declined to testify. It is now believed that Holtz found the combination of fear and trauma to be completely psychologically overwhelming. She may have feared that if cleared of the charges, Rhodes would track her down and subject her to more of the same treatment, and that she might not be lucky enough to escape a second time. 2 weeks after Holtz's kidnapping, charges against Rhodes were dropped. Then, in March 1991, 2 teenage runaways named Ricky Lee Jones and Regina K. Walters attempted to hitchhike out of the Houston suburb of Pasadena. Rhodes spotted them and put on a facade of friendliness. As the young couple climbed into the cab of his truck, their fate was sealed. Just like with Patricia Walsh and Douglas Sikowski, Jones was murdered almost immediately, and his body was found on March 3, 1991, in Lamar County, Mississippi, while Walters was threatened that she would suffer the same fate unless she complied with Rhodes's demands. Rhodes's murder of Regina Walters is perhaps the most disturbing of all his crimes, as there are actual photographic evidence of her final moments. The police discovered photographs in Rhodes's home that showed Regina and other victims being forced into painful stress positions. The images are deeply disturbing, as the terror on their faces is palpable. In Regina's case, the pictures show her with varying hair lengths and different bruises, suggesting that she was held captive for an extended period, possibly months. Along with physical and psychological torture, Rhodes taunted Regina's father with anonymous phone calls for months after her kidnapping. He made cruel statements, such as cutting her hair, and claimed he left her hung up in a barn, which was a lie. Regina was killed in a horrific manner, too sickening to describe, at a derelict piece of farmland where Rhodes had her pose for pictures. He then strangled her with a piece of metal wire. Fortunately, Rhodes was caught soon after, preventing him from killing again, but it was a terrifyingly close call for his next victim. The photographs of Regina in her vulnerable state are widely available online, and it is possible that she believed complying with Rhodes's requests would ensure her safety, but it was all a lie. In the early hours of April 1, 1990, Arizona Highway Patrol Trooper Mike Miller came across a truck with its hazard lights flashing on the side of the interstate. Concerned for the driver's safety, Miller parked his patrol car at the roadside and approached the vehicle. Upon reaching the truck's sleeper cab, he heard a faint noise emanating from within. Opening the hatch, Miller was confronted by a deafening scream from a naked and bloodied Kathleen Vine, her arms restrained by handcuffs that had been attached to the ceiling of the cab. The driver of the truck, Robert Ben Rhodes, emerged from his seat and claimed to be trying to help her. Miller saw through Rhodes's lie and drew his gun, disarming and arresting him. In custody, Rhodes was linked to a series of disappearances across the southern United States. Rhodes was eventually convicted of the murder of Regina K. Walters in 1994 and sentenced to life without parole at Menard Correctional Center in Chester, Illinois. After over a decade, he was sent to Utah to stand trial for the deaths of Candace Walsh and Douglas Sikoski, but the charges were dropped after the victims' families found it too difficult to testify. Rhodes was later extradited to Texas to be tried for the murder of Ricky Lee Jones, to which he pleaded guilty, receiving a second life sentence. This ensured he would never again be free to harm anyone else. Rhodes, now 76 years old, remains detained at Menard Maximum Security Prison. Although he has claimed to have killed as many as 50 people, authorities believe it is unlikely he will ever stand trial again, making it impossible to determine the full extent of his crimes. As a result, families across Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Utah may never know the fate of their missing loved ones. It is unclear why Rhodes chose to kill, but some suggest it may be rooted in the anger and shame he felt towards his father's deviance and suicide. Killing the innocent may have been his way of seeking revenge on a world that he perceived as having wronged him. Regardless of his motives, Rhodes was driven by a rare, distilled evil that not only led him to torture his victims, but also their families. As a truck driver, my job mostly involves long hauls, which leave me with plenty of time to just sit in my cab and do nothing. It can get extremely boring, but your videos have been a savior. I don't have much free time when I'm home, so it's taken me a while to write this, but I've been meaning to share an experience with you for a long time. A few years back, I was driving west on the I-76, just outside of Denver, Colorado, when something strange happened. It had been a pretty uneventful drive up until that point, but suddenly, I saw a huge cloud of dirt approaching, almost solid and around 20 to 30 feet wide. It completely covered the road ahead and was as tall as my truck's cab, which is around 12 to 15 feet. At first, I had no idea what it could be. I thought it might have been a vehicle fire, but I couldn't see any smoke or cars. Then I considered it might be a dust storm, but a dust storm that's only 30 feet wide seemed unlikely. I had no way to dodge it, so I slowed down, hit the washers, and prayed that no rocks were being whipped up to smash my windshield. As an owner and operator, any damage means it's on my insurance, and not some companies. Seconds later, I hit it, and the noise in my cab was seriously loud. That's what set it apart from a regular dust storm. They just don't make that kind of noise. The second thing that set it apart from a dust storm was the mess it left on my windshield. As I hit the mass of it, everything that hit my windshield left a smear of what looked like some kind of juice on the glass. That's when I realized I was driving into bees. All these huge freaking bees that seriously sounded like rocks when they were slamming into my cab. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. I mean, I'd seen giant swarms of locusts on TV before, but bees, I didn't think they even swarmed like that. Two things really creeped me out about the whole thing, and not just all the bee guts on my windshield, because I'm not a particularly squeamish person. The first thing was how if I'd just been walking at the side of the road, those things might have actually killed me. A couple of hundred bee stings could easily kill a person, so I braced myself. If they're aggressive when they're in that swarming state, that could have been the end of me. But then the second thing, and the thing that stuck with me long after I passed through the swarm, was the idea that they'd been flying like that to avoid some epic natural disaster or something. For the next few miles, I found myself getting really anxious, half expecting to feel an earthquake or see a meteor falling from the sky or something. Obviously, nothing like that happened, thank God. But the first chance I got, I looked up giant bee swarms on Google to see if they were actually a thing. Obviously, they are, but ones that size are an extremely rare event. When I told another trucker about the whole thing recently, he told me I was lucky to see something like that, like it was some kind of natural wonder or something. But let me tell you, I didn't feel so lucky to be driving through it at the time.